Much of the offseason talk regarding the Niners has been around Trey Lance and Sam Darnold. And while right now they're the only two healthy quarterbacks on the Niners have a quarterback they seem to value much more than both of those guys in Brock Purdy. They've already come out and said Brock Purdy is the leader of the clubhouse. And in this video, I want to examine if Brock Purdy can truly become the franchise quarterback for the Niners and win them hopefully a couple Super Bowls, or if he's just a mirage. First, we need to recap Brock Purdy's electric start to his NFL career. During the regular season last year, Purdy had a completion percent of 67.1% and had 1,300 yards through the air, 13 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions, and that gave him a good enough quarterback rating of 107.3. In the postseason, we arguably saw an uptick in production, seeing Brock Purdy throw for 569 yards, 9 yards average, 3 touchdowns, and a rating of 109.8. Last year, during this stretch, Brock Purdy was looking like a franchise quarterback. And according to some metrics, he was playing like a top 3 or even at sometimes a top 1 quarterback across the entire NFL. And the big argument against Brock Purdy during this time was that any quarterback could succeed in Kyle Shanahan's offense. And well, that's just not the truth. Kyle Shanahan hasn't been able to get this production out of Jimmy Garoppolo, putting up 30 points a game basically, or Trey Lance. Nowhere close to it, actually. Furthermore, there's been a narrative pushed this offseason that Brock Purdy is the same exact type quarterback as Jimmy Garoppolo, and I want to push back on this right now. First thing we need to talk about is Brock's tendency to go down the field, something Jimmy Garoppolo just frankly didn't do. Brock isn't a dink-dunk quarterback, even though that's the narrative being pushed right now. He often looks deep down the field and then works closer to the line of scrimmage as he progresses through the play. But he has taken shots. For instance, if you want to see a good breakdown of this, you can watch Kurt Warner break down Brock Purdy's play and see if he's a dink or dunk quarterback. During this video, Kurt Warner was able to dissect Brock Purdy's game against the Seattle Seahawks in the playoffs. He threw over 30 times during this game, and ultimately, Kurt Warner showed time and time again Brock Purdy pushing the ball down the field when he had the opportunity. And while he didn't connect with every single shot down the field, he was challenging the defense deep down the field, kind of going against the narrative that Brock Purdy doesn't challenge the defense like Jimmy Garoppolo. He also connected more on those deep passes than Jimmy Garoppolo and threw more deep touchdown passes than Jimmy Garoppolo. Another objection for Brock Purdy being the franchise quarterback for the Niners is that he doesn't possess elite skills anywhere. But that's also not the case. For instance, if we look at his physical or mental side, we see elite attributes in both. For example, to examine Purdy's mental acuity, we need to look no farther than the S2 cognition test, where Purdy placed in the mid-90s, a score you might consider elite, similar to someone like Drew Brees. The S2 isn't necessarily an intelligence exam like the Wonderlic exam, but rather it's a measure of how quickly and accurately an athlete can process the information. This is extremely important for a quarterback who needs to dissect what the defense is doing to him in an instance. The neuroscience and co-founder of Nashville-based S2 Cognition spoke about Brock Purdy's score. The game will never be too fast for Brock. I'll say that. I don't think he'll ever have a trouble adjusting. And when we examine Brock Purdy's on-field play, this carries over. He's one of the most cool and collected rookies I've ever seen. And it has to be that he knows exactly what the NFL is doing to him because he can dissect it as it comes, thanks to his elite S2 cognition score. Moving on to Brock Purdy's physical side, even though he's been called not a physically gifted athlete, I want to refute that as well. While 40-yard times are often looked at the end-all be-all for athletes, there's a more important measure, in my opinion, for quarterbacks who usually work in the short area like 10 yards. And that's the 10-yard split, which measures the quarterback's first 10 yards of his 40-yard dash, which gives us a good glimpse of his short area quickness. And Brock Purdy is elite. Purdy ran his 10-yard split in 1.55 seconds. That's the same as the running back Christian McCaffrey. And his time is just 0.05 seconds slower than Deshaun Jackson, one of the fastest NFL players ever. For me, Brock Purdy's production on the field signified franchise quarterback, and his mental makeup as well as his athletic profile doesn't do anything to deter me from that. But there is an issue we need to further discuss, and that's Brock Purdy's UCL tear. As you guys know, Purdy tore his UCL in the championship game last year, but is it going to ruin his career as an NFL quarterback? I don't think so. In the recent interview, there was a surgeon that spoke to Matt Maiocco, and this is what they said. I actually think it might be a little bit of a blessing in disguise, UCSF orthopedic surgeon Dr. Nareev said. Furthermore, they went on to say, a lot of people see pitchers get Tommy John and they come back even better and they think it's the surgery. Actually, it forces you to rehab and work on mechanics that you never have worked on in the past and kind of resetting things. Which is exactly what Brock Purdy is doing right now. He's working with his throwing coach, Will Helwit, who he also worked with prior to the draft. During that time period, Purdy was able to add 5 miles per hour. But now, Purdy may be able to actually rework his mechanics more, starting from a base level and really doing everything right. So Purdy may be able to get stronger, much like the orthopedic surgeon suggested. But even if he's able to just regain his former arm strength, I think that's plenty for the Niners to have a long, successful tenure with Purdy as the franchise quarterback. But these are just my thoughts on Brock Purdy as a potential franchise quarterback for the Niners. Purdy is coming off that major UCL tear, and I'd love to hear your thoughts if you think that Purdy will be able to reclaim some of this former glory he once had. I mean, there's surgeons coming out and saying Purdy should be able to stay the same strength or even maybe get stronger. So is it possible that Purdy may be the Niners' next Drew Brees? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. It would also mean a ton to me if you guys liked and subscribed. And as always, I really appreciate you guys watching. Thank you guys so much.